I've entitled this The Power of Vision and Strategy. It's a bit of a bookend on where we started. And if you noticed, yesterday was my ethos message. Today I'd like to close with a business message if I could. Still with the same sense of feeling, but I want it to be a little bit more focused on these two concepts of vision and strategy. And, you know, when I think about the oranges I talked to you guys about the other day, can you think of some new oranges you have to squeeze to make juice, right? Have you had some? I've been staring at this screen for the last several hours this afternoon, kind of staring at all of these things that have come into play. So you've got the announcement of Malaysia. Is that a big deal for us? It's a very, very big deal for us. Jerem gave you some statistics about Malaysia. We're excited to continue to expand our reach into the different regions and countries around the world. Are you excited about Omega? This is a really, really solid product that we've put into our VIA line. You can feel confident about it and comfortable sharing it with people. Chuck said to me the other day, he says, Tyler, this is one of the supplements that any good doctor is going to recommend. I mean, omegas are central to health, and the fact that we've put together a product with Dr. Stickley's help, we feel so good about it. I hope you guys do as well. Did you like the new videos? Yeah. I'll tell you what, a good video tool properly used in the marketplace can make a big, big difference in terms of telling the message, sharing the story. And I loved the work that Jerem and the marketing team did this year in getting these videos. I will tell you, they worked so hard. There were several nights last week where I was at the office late and people working really hard to make sure those tools were ready to go for you guys this week. I hope you take advantage of them. What about ASEA Connect? How cool was that? How cool is it to have Jerem on the stage? We're watching this, texting to Paul, right, and blasting that message out. I sat in a meeting, went through every one of the functions on this, as well as the product roadmap on how to use this tool. We are in for a real treat when this tool gets fleshed out. It's going to become a central part of your business, and I think it will accelerate duplication where people maybe feel a little stuck about how to communicate. They don't have to overthink it. You just drop folks into this and work this list right off your phone. It's where we should be, and I'm happy to be able to have it come out this week. I hope you didn't miss the power of the micro app that we put in play. This app, married with the Connect solution, creates a really interesting platform for you to communicate, particularly in-home settings or face-to-face settings. You're now pulling up an iPad. You've got an interactive opportunity to push through content, share a video, share a PDF. It's almost like having a really great flip chart right there in front of you. And frankly, in some instances, we forget how simple this can be if we just have some good images and some good content right in front of somebody, whether it's over breakfast or in your home. I think it'll be a great tool. How'd you like the bike? That was cool, wasn't it? I got to tell you, I have a different interpretation of the power of what OCC does in terms of leveraging their brand awareness. When you run 10 years on a network like Discovery and build millions and millions of followers who are passionate about the work that they do, and you allow that to intersect with a company's mission and purpose like we have, it enables us to go out and reach new pockets of people that we might not otherwise reach to. And so I don't want you to miss what this really represents. If you spend a little time with Paul Sr. and his staff, if you walked the showroom of OCC back in New York and saw the different beautiful works of art that they've created and the role that those can play in telling a story and inviting people to put their attention on something that can then draw greater attention to things that would really matter as well. I really have a lot of respect for them. They're people that really, really do see all people, and I've noticed that about them. I hope you'll appreciate what that can represent. We'll be using that for years to come. The Envision conferences were announced. Yeah, you can applaud for that. That's worth applauding for. The Envision conferences announced this legacy trip. Anybody excited about the legacy trip to Bora Bora? Denny's been doing backflips and is in the front here. We're excited about those. Next year, of course, we're going to Dubrovnik, Croatia, as well as to Rome for the. Are you excited about that? Are you ready to go from Mexico over to Europe? Please, please, please make every effort to be there. It's going to be a wonderful experience. And we're excited to accommodate our friends in Asia and Australia and head to Bali together and enjoy a place that they can get to at a more favorable cost to them in the event that they're coming to the ascent portion and then recognizing our diamonds appropriately there. So what is this? What is this picture on the screen right now? These are the oranges, guys. These are the new resources that have been brought to the table at this event. I mentioned to you that some of these have been under construction for more than 2 years, some of them 1 year, 2 years. So I really want you to take advantage and appreciate what these are. It's now your opportunity to take all of these global convention oranges and turn them into orange juice. It's your job now to squeeze them and take advantage of them. I challenge you to go back to where we started at this event and the notion of making a list of all the resources you have available to you, really calculating how much you're using them, and deciding coming out of this event, what's my vision, where do I want to go now, and how am I going to leverage all of the keys on the piano to play to my favor. It should be something that you take full advantage of. Okay, so with that in mind, throw out some words that you would say to describe my dad. Okay, visionary. Integrity, compassionate, loyalty. If my mom was here, she would be like, wow, those are nice words. Yeah, so the word that comes to my mind, amidst all of the nice, magnanimous words, is this concept of a strategist. I just think of my dad as somebody who's a strategist. And you may say, I kind of was saying, I wonder if people can appreciate what do I mean by the notion of what is a strategist? Like, what does that really mean? So let me help you. I went out and did some research, and I found several data points that talk about this, and I want to see if I can scope this for you a little bit. So strategists are basically people that analyze really complex things, environments, and they design a very practical pathway to achieve an objective. So they look at things and they analyze the environment. They actually can see a desired future state, but not only see that, they can connect that future state to the present. And the path to that future state can be perceived as very accomplishable or doable. That's what a strategist does. They have typically a higher level view of any given problem. They can see things from a higher elevation. And I think that's an important concept because sometimes we can get tangled at low elevation. And my dad has the ability to zoom out and see things from a different level, which enables him to both simplify it and make more sense of it. And they're the ones that can see into the long term from the near term and start thinking about a business. A couple other comments I think that are worth noting here. They can see the external landscape. So they understand both internal strengths and weaknesses, but they can also interpret external opportunity and even threat, and that's a really important part of what they do. They understand competition. My dad had pages understanding what competitors were doing on compensation, on product portfolios, on positioning. So they know their competition and their strategy. And they apply critical thinking skills and disciplines so they can focus and prioritize the attention on what really matters. This is an important concept. Sometimes we're spinning around doing things that don't matter as much. A good strategist is someone who says, don't put your time and energy over here, put it here because this is where it's going to matter and play out more. And as I started the convention by talking to you about the power of identifying and leveraging resources, right, to create advantage, I want you to think about the power of building and identifying these resources so that you can leverage them. My dad was a master at that one skill set. And if you really had to just gist it, if you had to summarize it down to two critical skill sets, I think one of you said visionary. I would add that visionary married with critical thinking, and particularly critical thinking disciplines that are able to simplify something complex. You know, when my dad first bumped into the technology that is now ASEA Redox, I remember him saying to me, I'm not sure these people know what they have. They had spent over 10 years working on developing that technology, but my dad's critical thinking ability and his ability to see things and then use those disciplines to get to clarity, it made an enormous difference in his ability to say, I see something that they don't even see here. And I'd like to talk about that. I want to talk specifically about vision and critical thinking, and ultimately take you on a little bit of a journey both into the past to today. And I'd like to close my remarks today by giving you a very vivid vision of where this is going. I want you to come away with an absolute sense of certainty and confidence about where this is going. I can see it, and I will tell you what it is today. So let's talk about visionary first. Recently, Chuck mentioned this just a few minutes ago, talking about Jerem's superpower. I've kind of fallen in love with an organization out of Silicon Valley called SY Partners, particularly the ethos and philosophy I'm getting from their founder, Keith Yamashita. And Keith has this desire and vision to take tools that they've used or methods they've used and build them into tools. One of the tools that they've put out on the App Store, if you were to go look for it now, you'd find it, is an application to help you define and understand your one superpower. And it can be done in cards if you prefer low tech. And if you want a high tech opportunity, you can do this exercise on your phone. And the exercise itself is pretty simple. You go through a series of questions, and ultimately you land on a final card that says this is your superpower. I'm not sure if you can read these from out there, but some of them are energy or negotiation or systems thinkers or complexity busting. And there's a whole list of these superpowers. So I was interested, and I was at my dad's house, and I said, hey, Dad, I want you to go through this exercise. He's not a very patient person, by the way. So I gave him my iPad, and I said, go through these things. And about a few minutes in, he's like, how long is this going to take? You know, he was just like, let's get on with it, right? And I said, keep going. You're almost done. You're almost done. You're almost done. And when he finished, guess what his superpower was? His superpower was vision. Of all these different superpowers that you can have, whether it's a cultural compass or it's decisiveness like Jerem's, mine is a pattern mapper. I'm a pattern mapper. I can see patterns easily. My dad's is vision. In fact, it has a little description that I'd like to read for you here. It says, visionaries have a kind of crystal ball in their brains. They can see a future destination in vivid color. And while some of the details about how to get there may be hazy, the visionary's account is more than enough to start the team on its way. Along with providing an initial push, visionaries can help the team keep its ambition high throughout the journey. Would you agree that that's my dad? Wouldn't you say that's been my dad? Dad is a very visionary person. Now, to be fair to all of us, this is a picture of the Great Salt Lake. Let's be fair now for just a second. Salt water from Salt Lake. Really? Like this is what a strategist is thinking about? My dad was looking at this very differently than I was. And I have to be honest, I didn't think this was going to be a good decision for his time and energy. But again, that visionary is someone who sees something before others see it. In the book, The Fountainhead, which is a really kind of a landmark piece of literature in the United States, it talks about an architect who's an individualist, who sees the world differently. He gets fired from jobs because he's not willing to do it the way everyone else does it. And at the very end, he's on trial for something. And this is one of his quotes. I'm going to touch on this twice. He says, throughout the centuries, there were men who took first steps down new roads, armed with nothing but their own vision. First steps down new roads, armed with nothing but their own vision. Their goals differed, but they all had that one thing in common. That step was first. The road was new, and the vision, I love this framework, the vision was unborrowed. And the response they received, hatred. The great creators, the great thinkers, the artists, the scientists, the inventors typically stood alone against the men of their time. Think about that picture of the Great Salt Lake. Think about a product that doesn't taste really good. Think about a 69-year-old guy who didn't need to start this company and much less start a network marketing company. But when my dad stepped into his true superpower, where he could see something that most people couldn't see, a vision, I believe that he was operating on unborrowed vision, and he was taking the first steps down roads armed with nothing but that vision. There weren't a lot of people saying go for it. Not mom, not me, and not a lot of others. My dad was living the Wayne Gretzky quote, which says that I've really made my career by skating where the puck is going to be, not where it's been. Dad could see where the puck was going, and Dad's vision was pushing him to start skating where the puck would be on the ice, not where it's been. And how grateful I am that that's been the case with him. When I was early on in my career, Dad gave me a book by this man who in the 50s and 60s, mostly 60s up to the mid to late 70s, was probably the most celebrated CEO in the United States. His name was Harold Janine. Harold Janine wrote a book that was released in the early 80s simply entitled Management. I think it's Managing. It was entitled Managing. And one of the early quotes in that book is something I remember my dad telling me at a very young age in my career. He said, Tyler, you read a book from the beginning to the end, but you run a business the exact opposite way. You start with the end, and then you do everything you must do to reach it. So what was that starting with the end, that unborrowed vision, that taking of a step down a new road by himself that my dad had in mind? Well, he simply wrote the first vision statement of this company in very simple terms. And it was, Tyler, we need to achieve worldwide distribution of ASEA. That was it. He said, we need to get this product to the world and find the people that need it. And anytime you asked my dad his vision, that's what he said. Now, guys, remember, there were no production facilities. There were no ASEA Connect apps. There was nothing. In fact, the offices we were in, you wouldn't probably even park a car at, most of you, especially you $1 Million Club people. You'd be like, really? I'm supposed to buy into this? But my dad's unborrowed vision was this: we're going to get this around the world. I sat down, and Jerem did a little of this in his presentation, and started doing a map of this notion of let's achieve worldwide distribution. And as this slide indicates, as it scrolls from left to right, 2007 all the way to today, we have begun the process of achieving that, my dad's early vision. This product is starting to carry itself around the world, and it's finding its way to the people who need it the most, which was his intent. In fact, Chuck the other night, when we were honoring my dad for his birthday, shared the impact that my dad has had in some numbers that we can actually put our hands around. He mentioned, and rightfully so, it's virtually impossible for us to quantify the health impact that my father's vision has had on the world. I've had stories told to me in the last 24 hours that continue to blow my mind about the impact of our great products and that one simple desire I had to achieve worldwide distribution. But here are some things we can measure. Dad said we want worldwide distribution. Well, we're in 33 countries. The total cases of ASEA produced are 4.1 million. I'm rounding up. 4.1 million cases of ASEA have gone out. Now remember, unborrowed vision down to new road, down to new idea. And now it's 4.1 million cases have been distributed. Total commissions paid are greater than $250 million. To me, that's an amazing thing. When you think about economic impact, helping people's lives to move forward. And by the way, guys, I don't care if that's $50 to somebody, one time. If we're helping economies and helping families to generate income that can bless their families and lives, so be it. Over $250 million paid to more than 93,000 distinct people or entities inside of our tree, with over 323,000 people that have participated over time in this mission and vision. To me, that's an incredible update and evidence on a simple statement of saying, I want to achieve worldwide distribution of ASEA. Do you agree with me? Yeah, I think so. Chuck did a nice job of acknowledging our employee base, and something he reminds my dad of often is, not only do we have 246 employees across the globe, but those employees represent 650 dependents. And to say nothing of our field leadership and their dependence on this business, it's beautiful to know that there's another 900 people whose daily livelihood revolves around this ASEA vision. So I can't really thank my dad enough for this simple statement and him leaning into it at a time when there weren't a lot of people that were raising their hands saying they wanted to play. This vision statement evolved into a second iteration a few years into the burn with my dad. He said, you know what, Tyler? Not only should we be achieving worldwide distribution of ASEA, we need to set a new industry standard. Dad became more familiar with the industry and said, this isn't enough just to get it around. We should set the standard of being a company people can trust. We should be the company where professional principle-based management, not hype, right? Not getting up here and trying to get a spike in your blood pressure, but substance, real people that are thinking critically about the business. That should be part of our vision. And we should also make the development of all of you our priority in our vision. And that became the second iteration of our vision statement. Now, we began to grow as a company, and things started to shape up even further. We started to get our hands around the power of redox, and we repositioned ourselves as a leader in this space because we started to better understand it. In addition to that, we started to carve out cellular health. And it's interesting, I've gone out and looked at several companies that are repositioning themselves into cellular health. We were the first. We were the first ones saying, we're going after cellular health, and we're certainly the first in redox and continue to dominate that space. I'm going to talk more about that. When you consider that we also expanded the products beyond the redox supplement, started to add skincare products from the outside in to the inside out, and nutritional products, we also started to see the ethos having an effect. Remember, guys, the ethos was nothing more than a series of presentations over time that started to kind of get positioned as a core set of philosophies and beliefs. That ethos started having an impact. And guess what? We started seeing people really earn meaningful income. When you rack all of this up together, whether it's the notion of redox-based technologies, cellular health, the product set expanding, teaching cultural ethos principles, as well as opportunity, you can see how we got to our final vision statement. All those words were packed in and said, you know what? Our third iteration needs to be, and this is today's vision statement, let's go lead the world in redox-based technologies and cellular health. Let's go achieve worldwide distribution. Do you remember Dad's first statement? Achieve worldwide distribution of ASEA. That was it. We've now dimensionalized the distribution worldwide beyond just the ASEA product, but to include our culture and the financial opportunity, all of which have life-changing essence about them. This is the vision, and this is kind of what brought us to this point. Now, you guys may have heard this word before. I don't know how it'll translate into the many languages here. Prescience. Prescience. Prescience is defined as the fact of knowing something before it takes place. Foreknowledge. Guys, I went to the office over several weeks, over the last 2 months. I've been many nights by myself there, several Saturdays. I got all of the hard drives with all of my dad's presentations from all the way back to the beginning. I sat and watched my dad time and time again present. I got all of his PowerPoint presentations and pulled those off, printed them and stared at them on my screen. One night I was there late by myself and I found this image. I found this picture that my dad had presented, and Sue and a couple others will even recognize the logo, Breakthrough. This is 2010. This is the very first convention. It was called Breakthrough. And my father put this slide on the stage after describing the power of ASEA in health and wellness and in athletics. And Dad put a curve, you can see the curve from 2010. Do you notice the last year in this graph? So can you imagine, I'm sitting there after hours by myself, and I'm looking at this graph, I'm like, wow, this is my dad in 2010. And today it's 2019. This is the curve that he said we should have. So I started pushing through my decks, and I started looking for an updated graph of where we actually played out over time. And I said, let's look at this. Let's see how well we've done from 2010 to 2019. You know, there's a quote by Jonathan Swift that says, vision is the art of seeing things invisible. If my dad is visionary, and that is his superpower, that night I sat there, and I will tell you, I got really quiet. Because what I did is I laid over this line. Now, if Dad was here, he'd say, you guys messed it up when I retired, and it would have followed the red line straight, but I stepped out and you guys had a little time to figure it out. That's my dad, by the way. But isn't that something? Isn't that really something? I didn't mess with the scale. I literally just took a screen print of the graph and I put some opacity on it so I could see through it, and I dropped it right on the top of my dad's vision. And I thought, this is unbelievable. I wonder sometimes if we underestimate and underutilize, maybe underleverage the power of articulating a vision. Unborrowed vision. I wish you guys would take some time and sit down and draw a graph of your life. The y-axis doesn't have to just be money or revenue. But your vision, written down like this was 9 years ago. I'm just utterly fascinated by how these graphs line up. With that in mind, I want you to think about prescience. And I sat there and stared at this word, and then I said, isn't this interesting? If I separate this compound word, it's pre-science. The science is still catching up to us. Mark my words, the science is still catching up on redox and its application in the world. I agree. You can clap all you want. Do I think my dad was prescient? I do think that he was pre-science. I do think he might have been thinking out in front saying, the world needs this. Now, you say to yourself, following up on Ayn Rand's quote, she said, every great new thought was opposed. I went out on the internet and found a bunch of stuff that said about me. I kind of laughed about it. I'm like, this is ridiculous. These people, why don't you come hang out with us at convention for a while before you post up a website that says something negative about us? Just come hang out with us for a weekend, right? Because I was saying to myself, yeah, every great new thought was opposed. Every great new invention denounced. First motor, considered foolish. Airplane, considered impossible. The power loom, considered vicious. Anesthesia, considered a sin. But the men of unborrowed vision went ahead. They fought, they suffered, they paid, and they won. Aren't we grateful for my dad's unborrowed vision on this deal? Dad came down for the opening session, and he's home where he should be with my mom, who's not feeling real well. And I just want to say, because I think they're watching this stream live, I'm so thankful that they fought, that they took that unborrowed vision together and went ahead. And Dad, I guess I could say, just like this says, we are winning. We are winning. So here's a question. Where does that kind of unborrowed vision, where does that kind of clarity and confidence and vision come from? Is it just your gut? Is it just something you kind of make up? Well, that brings me to the second part of my dad's strengths. The second part is his ability to think very critically. And when you try to figure out where does confidence and clarity in a vision come from, for Dad, it doesn't come just from his gut. It comes because he did his homework. And let me give you a couple examples. My dad worked for a long time with this guy. Jim Kiltz is probably the most storied consumer goods CEO of the last 50 plus years in America. These are some of the brands that he ran as CEO: Nabisco, Kraft, Oscar Mayer, and Gillette. He was offered the position as the CEO worldwide for Coca-Cola and turned it down. My dad worked with Jim Kiltz for more than 20 years, and this is a quote from Jim about Virtus. He said, I worked with Virtus for over 20 years, and during that time, I grew to appreciate his capabilities and innate ability to do what? To simplify the complex situation and to think strategically. Here's one of the greatest CEOs in American history, definitely in the last 100 years, who spent day-to-day time with my dad for more than 20, saying Vertus's superpower was critical thinking, vision. He's a strategist. From those relationships, my dad gave me the advice: think, use your mind, outthink people. From those relationships with Jim and all that experience, he came up with what is his strategic link process: how to think critically and build a plan that you can execute and win. In that planning process, I'll highlight number one for you is the industry and market assessment. Alan, Sue, handful of others, Trish, Denny, Rosemary, those that were here at the very beginning, Chuck and Tammy, you guys will remember, my dad used to throw up slides that looked like this. It was like, do you guys realize that global direct sales are $167 billion in 2012? This is back in 2012. Vertus is a strategist. He's like, look at this curve. Then he says, do you realize that there's 90 million people in the direct sales industry worldwide? 90 million people, and it's going up every year. He used to put together facts pages like, Tyler, look at this. Network marketing, 90 million people, 15.6 in the United States, 1 in every 9 households. Now remember, this is 2014. We were just barely starting to go outside the US. He said, Tyler, every week more than 45,000 people in the United States sign up as a network marketer, and 150,000 people every single week around the world. And he said, Tyler, this is incredible. Look at this industry. My dad has said to me on more than a dozen occasions, Tyler, I wish I found network marketing 40 years ago. He goes, this is incredible. This business is utterly incredible. Now, what was he really doing here? And stay with me on what he was doing. My dad was a strategist. He was looking at the world around him saying, this is going to go. Not only that, he would pivot and say, let's look at trends around the world. The fourth step in his process, he goes, I'm going to go out and look for trends. Alan, do you remember his presentations, mega trends? My dad would sit there, and there were people in the audience like, what in the world is this man talking about? But my dad would say, Tyler, look at this. The world population is exploding. And I'd be like, so what? And he'd be going, you don't get it, do you? You're not really smart. And then he would say, when you add world population growing and people are getting older, and then I'd be like, keep going, Dad. Peel the onion for me. And then he says, well, if you add exploding world population and aging people, they're stressing the environment. They're stressing the way people get food. They're stressing the physical ecosystems that have existed for millennia. And I'm like, keep going, Dad. You're doing great. Then he says to me, Tyler, people are declining in health. He used to throw up statistics. Chuck, do you remember? He'd throw up these statistics all the time about the challenges in people's health around the world. And he said, Tyler, these are mega trends. These aren't trends happening in the United States. These are happening in Taiwan, in Australia. They're happening in Canada. They're happening all across Europe. These are true mega trends that deserve our attention. He went on to say, you know what else, Tyler? Healthcare cost is going up. People can't afford to pay for it. And then he goes, and guess what? Governments have too much debt. And you might look and say, really? Is this a network marketing event? We're talking about all these mega trends? But what was he doing? My dad was saying all of these trends point to one thing. It points to ASEA. You get it? He said, Tyler, there's more people on the planet than ever before. They're living longer, but in worse health. And if their health is worse, it's because the ecosystem is stressed. And when their health is worse, they have to go get help for it, and the healthcare costs are too much. He goes, this is amazing. And I was like, hey, can you slow down and back up? I'm still stuck on world population. Like, what are you talking about? But you sit there and you realize my dad's a strategist, and he's thinking about the world through a totally different lens of, hey, this is where the puck is going on the ice. We have something that addresses all of these trends around the world. That's why that clarity and confidence was so clear for him. That's where this kind of confidence in unborrowed vision comes from. He had applied the disciplines of critical thinking, and he could show you, he could say, this is where this is going. So if you think about it, Dad truly was visionary, and he was a critical thinker. And that made a huge difference. He used to say all the time, those of you that have been here since the early 2010s, you remember him quoting this from Steve Jobs. He says, Tyler, this is exactly how I feel. We're doing something significant here. We're here at the beginning. Everyone here right now has the sense that we're influencing the future. And he would say this at every meeting. He would say, that's what's happening right now. Even when there were just a handful of people starting on this deal, and we could barely spell network marketing. That's what he would say. And truly, guys, think about it. If that's where we've come from, and this is where we stand today in 2019, we have a different hand of cards today than my dad had at 2010. So let me take a minute and scope that for you. You see, ASEA today does not look like the Great Salt Lake, barren and salty. And if you go back to my dad's thinking process, step number 3, what is step number 3? Can you read it? You have to assess yourself. So let's do one of my dad's critical thinking steps right now. Here's ASEA today. Today we're open and standing on very firm foundation, and we are post-startup and early momentum. I don't think we're pre-momentum anymore. We're post-startup. We're not just starting this thing, right? We are into momentum. In fact, we're 50% growth each of the past 2 years, and we're in the top 75 of all network marketing companies in the world right now, the DSA top 75. Moreover, we're open in 33 countries. We're super financially sound as an organization. We have no long-term debt, and we are profitable. Does that matter to you? Should that matter to you? It should matter a lot to you. We are a profitable company with no long-term debt. We have a very disciplined executive management team and have been together for 7+ years. We own the Redox platform, and we're broadening our unique product portfolio and story every year. All of our scalable systems are online and optimized. Our technology platform's online, and as Chuck said, the must-haves are done, and now the nice-to-haves are moving into our scope, and we're saying, let's get even better. In addition to that, our production facility that we have now, the one that Paul Sr. said, I've never seen anything quite as clean, and Joni said that, we can scale to 4 times our current size with very little capital infusion. Think about that. We don't have to spend a ton of money to scale up in growth. Can I handle a spike in production in any one of your regions around the world? The answer is a capital Y-E-S, yes. I don't have to spend a ton of money. Let's go, right? We have incredible, steady, and committed field leadership across all regions and markets in the world. Our leadership core, many of you sitting right in front of me, are steady, committed, wonderful people that are strengthening this organization right from the foundation up. You're central to the story today. Don't you guys agree we have awesome field leadership? One of my favorite memories of this entire week was walking down this Hall of Fame and seeing all the breakout session pictures of the people speaking this week. Wonderful leaders, wonderful people being recognized for what they're doing. And I dare to say we have the most unique and substantive culture of authenticity and humanity in this entire industry. And I'll take anybody on who tells me otherwise. So if that's where we stand today, what about the slides my dad had from 2012? Let's update them. Anything changed externally with the trends he was looking at? Well, this was 2012. You can see that graph ends in 2012. Let's see what it's done since then. There you go. Global direct sales are up 13%, now to 190 billion from where we were at 167 when Dad did the sign. You think direct sales is going away? Nope. Was Virtus right and prescient about saying, hey, this is going to keep going? This is the right time to do this. What about this graph? This shows 90 million people in direct sales in 2012. Any guesses if there's more now or less? Yeah, you guys are smart. You're getting the critical thinking. 118 million people worldwide. That number is up 30% since 2012. Think we're going away? It's not going away, guys. It is absolutely not going away. So Thomas Watson, who is central to the whole IBM story, said, if you're going to visualize the future, you need to know something of the past. If there's any truth to the Shakespeare quote that past is prologue meaning the beginning, it's an interesting concept to say, if you're going to know something about the future, you need to have a better understanding of the past. And if past is prologue, and if you buy into that, which I do, I think the question we should say is, well, given where we've come from 2010 to 2019, matching exactly what Vertus drew out on this slide, given where we are today, that stack that I just played out for you, which looks very different than it did in 2010, given the fact that all the trends I just updated for you, they're still there, things aren't going away, they're going up. And given the fact that we're approaching now a 10-year anniversary next year, which you do not want to miss, this is going to be a blast. Given all of that stuff in our favor right now, shouldn't we ask ourselves, where can we take ASEA in the next 10 years? Isn't that a fair question to ask? Shouldn't we own this part now? Vertus isn't here right now. Isn't this now our vision to take and move forward? So with that in mind, and using my dad's quote from Peter Drucker as our framework, which is the best way to predict the future is actually to create it, let's talk about where we're headed as an organization. And specifically, I'd like to build around this anchor vision statement of being recognized as the global leader in redox-based technologies, which, by the way, we already are today, but we need to take this even further. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to add some color to our vision statement. I want to make it even more vivid for you about where this is going. Are you interested in hearing that vision? Are you sure? Are you awake? Okay, I'm just checking. Do you want Chuck to roller skate across the back again just to make sure you're ready for this? Oh, you said yes. Chuck, did you hear that? My vivid vision is to never see Chuck roller skate across this stage again. Let's talk vivid vision for a minute. This concept of really getting descriptive about where this is going. Your job now is to ask yourself, where do I fit in this? Like, do I want to ride this rapid with you? Or Denny's new love, which is wake surfing, and saying, do I want to ride this, right? I want you to think about you're pulling into that surfing wave and you're getting to that sweet spot. You ready? ASEA will, and please know for 1,000% certain that I'm starting here for a reason, ASEA will be known industry-wide as the single most trusted place for new and experienced field leaders to build a network marketing business. There are too many wounded people, I've met some today, who have been hurt by companies who pivot. ASEA will be the most trusted place for new and experienced field leaders to build a business. You need to know that the chalk lines on this field will not change. You need to know that the goalpost is not going to move. You have to be confident to lean into building. You have to have faith in us, and we have to demonstrate that faith is not misplaced. And that's the number one part of our vivid vision, in my opinion, is that you have to be the key. And I will continue to see and treat everyone in this organization as the heart of this business. You are the heart of ASEA, not us. I have never once from this stage declared a dollar amount, but I'm going to right now. ASEA will reach $500 million in revenue by the year 2025. We will be a $500 million company in 2025. My father used to throw around the billion word all the time. I never felt comfortable doing it. I can tell you guys that I have deep convictions that we are going to drive consistent year-over-year growth in this organization in every region of the world. And by 2025, we'll be $500 million. Do you guys know where we are today? About $150 million. So we're going to take this business to $500 million in revenue. That would put us squarely in the top 30 in the world in network marketing companies. Are you with me on that? ASEA will continue to be run as a legacy business. My job is to protect, to preserve and provide stable legacy income to who I believe are field partners, you. You have to know that we will run this with the long view in mind. We will take a long view. I want your kids to be getting checks. I want your grandkids to be getting checks. And let me tell you, Justin Wilson's mother still receives checks long after the passing of her husband that blessed their family. That's legacy income, and that's my job, and our job at the company is to see to it we run this with legacy in mind. Deep roots, big tree. We need to have a big tree that you feel confident will yield fruit for your families for a long time to come. Does that matter to you? It matters to us. This is really important, what I'm going to throw up on these next two bullet points. Number one, we will lead, we will own, and we will dominate the redox life sciences space in health and wellness. We will lead, we will own, and we will dominate redox life sciences, period, full stop. That is the vision of ASEA and where we're going. In addition, and to that end, we will establish a redox life sciences research and development lab. We will populate that lab with the best scientists in the world in redox, and we will develop new technologies and redox products exclusive to ASEA. I'm just curious, did Chuck just skate past me right now? Oh, you're excited about this. You should be. We're all excited about this. We are going to lead, own, and dominate the redox life sciences space. We're going to fund the research, and we're going to go out and lead the frontier. It's time for us to add to and continue to find the kinds of life-changing technologies in redox space. It does not diminish in any way the need for the nutritional supplements, which points to our continued approach to developing that. But I want you to hear it from my mouth. There will be research, there will be scientists, and we will develop IP and technologies exclusive to us that no one can touch. And that is coming from my mouth. Very much in parallel with that last statement, we will aggressively invest in ongoing publishable science and research that validates and affirms our redox-based technologies and promotes universal acceptance of our products. We simply cannot continue to cross our fingers on just the life-changing stories alone. We know it. We know it's missing. It's a key on the piano, and we're going to go out and work our tails off to make sure you have something you can point to. When anybody tries to put you or us on trial, you're going to make them quiet by putting it across the table. That's what has to happen. ASEA will also continue, and I want you to see this, we will continue to strengthen and broaden the portfolio of our high impact and high integrity products that focus on cellular health. These may be non-redox based approaches to ongoing cellular health. This is where Omega would live. We're going to continue to play in this space. We're finding some very, very interesting opportunities in this space, and it will continue to happen. We want to dominate the fast lane of redox. And we want those lanes just on either side of it, of health and nutrition and cellular health, to continue to be fleshed out so that you have a complementary story on complete and total cellular health as you build out your business. So I don't want you to get any misgivings or illusions about our commitment to the cellular health framework as well. As you might expect, we're deeply committed to continuing to expand to additional new markets. Remember Dad's first vision statement? Achieve worldwide distribution of ASEA. We're committed to that, and we will continue to expand into additional new markets. I had some lovely people from a very remote part of the world come up to me at this event and asked, will you come to our place? And I said, I don't know when, but we're doing it because there are people there. There are people, and our job is to better people's lives, and we need to take this product to people, even if sometimes it's a bit of a head scratcher to go to these places. We need to go. and we need to make sure that people have access to this opportunity, product, and culture. You agree? This is super important to me. We will continue to establish our ethos and culture as the absolute industry leader. We will have an unwavering commitment to our mission of bettering people's lives and being a force for good in the world. And we will absolutely continue to teach. We will always prioritize teaching that why and promoting our cultural values. I am absolutely convinced in the world we live in, we're not doing enough of this in corporations, in schools, in all across the institutions. We need to rehumanize each other. We need to be careful with the way we treat each other. We need to be kind to other people and compassionate. We need to let that culture become its own product. The culture should be like Renew 28 all over somebody's body. They should feel it, okay? And we should give it to them in great abundance so they say, you know what, something feels different here. Be careful with the way you run your business. Remember, you reflect this ethos and culture every day, and you should be stewards of it. You should take it seriously and see to it that when someone interacts with you or with this brand, they come away saying, even if they don't believe in our products, those are great people, they clearly have a good hearts, and they're trying to do something good in the world. Will you help me with that? You guys may not think about this as much as we do, and particularly Chuck. I give my real congratulations to Chuck for this, but we will continue to be recognized as a top place to work for our employees. As you guys know, we are recognized every year as a best place to work in the state of Utah. Chuck works really hard to see to it that our employees are treated fairly. We've tried to create an environment where they can grow and they can develop and they can succeed. And whether they work with us for 1 year or 10 years, it doesn't matter. They should have an experience with ASEA where they grew and they developed, were treated with respect, and that's our vision for our employee base as we expand around the world. And I need your help with that too. My last statement here points to the Advancing Life Foundation, guys. We will continue to give back. We must give back through the foundation, and we will increase our contribution every single year, year over year. That's our commitment, to make sure that we're going out and making the world a better place, being a force for good, especially for people and especially for children who need us to protect them and help them in any way. And I'm not saying I'm going to be able to fix all things in the world. I am saying we're going to do our part. We're simply going to lean into it and try to do our best to add one little drop to that water. Remember the Dalai Lama saying, the tip of the iceberg is all the bad news and all the negative things in the world. Underneath that tip of iceberg is a huge reservoir of kindness and compassion, and that's going to be a great part of what we're trying to do with the Advancing Life Foundation. We need your help, and by the way, help us reach that goal. It's all going to people who need it. I promise you they need it. We're really close. We ought to make a run at it between now and the end of the night. Will you help with that, please? Great. So look at this in summary, okay? I know this is going to be difficult to read. I don't expect you to read it. I just expect you to see it. We have an anchor vision statement. This is our anchor vision statement. We want to become the global leader in redox-based technologies and cellular health. We want to achieve worldwide distribution of our life-changing products, culture, and financial opportunity. When you marry that with ASEA Today, that top left slide in front of you, ASEA Today, and all the stack of things in our favor, and then you say, we're going to continue to be the most trusted place for people to build a new business in this industry. We are going to reach $500 million in revenue. And by the way, it could be much sooner. This could happen much sooner. This is our vision, that we're going to continue to drive the business forward, and by 2025, we should be a $500 million organization in the top 30 in the world. In addition to that, we're going to own, dominate, and lead out in the redox life sciences space, and we're going to invest heavily into getting greater science, new technologies exclusive to us. In addition to that, we're going to put a lab in place and continue to put ongoing research on there so we can affirm what we say to people in a way that's irrefutable and cannot be questioned. With that in hand as well, we will strengthen and continue to flesh out our cellular health framework in addition to redox. We will continue to add additional new markets as we grow this business around the world. We want to make our ethos and culture the most distinguishing part of this business, where people can come and immediately feel something different here. Immediately feel that we're being sincere and that we care about them and we're trying to create greater humanity in business. We're going to watch out for our employees and make sure that people that work here have a great experience, and we will continue to give back through the Advancing Life Foundation. You with me? Did you notice how every one of my slides started? 2 words. ASEA will. So if I gather those together and I say, ASEA will, what stands very fair is the next question of, well, will you? Will you? Will you stop having unintelligent conversations with yourself about what you can't accomplish? Will you? Will you go home and set a vision for yourself, an unborrowed vision, stepping out into some place you've never gone before? Will you? Will you take the oranges off this tree and squeeze them into juice and start leveraging the resources we give you to your own advantage? Will you actually reach out and share this message with other people? Have you seen the stories, by the way? The simple, beautiful stories of people. Have you seen that? Will you reach out and just offer it? Will you? I want to invite all of you to join us in this vision. We're going to do this. I'm not asking your opinion. I love you, but I'm not asking your opinion. We're doing this. You get on the tracks in front of us, not a good place to be. Get on the train, wonderful ride. Not for you, just don't get on the tracks. Get on the side and wave as we go. But this is going to happen, and we're going to go make this happen, and we're going to do it united together on this vision. So will you? Good. Right now, we need Chuck to roll across. Chuck needs to roll back and forth on his skates. If you'll stay standing, I'll give you my closing remark, and it's this. Isaac Newton said, "If I have seen further than others, it's by standing upon the shoulders of giants." I can see further, guys. I can see where this needs to go, and it's only because I'm standing on the shoulders of my dad, who I love with all my heart. My invitation to you is join us with this vision. Next year's 10 years, we're going to party. Let's take this to where it needs to go and fulfill on this vision. Thank you guys very, very much.